Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Either of those names, most of those places, Talk El Paso, Andrew J. Polk, you're going to be able to find us and chime in and, leave your feedback, as we have some people doing here already, as we have over on the social media, Flaca Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes doing so. Do appreciate it. Helps with all those algorithmic things that, we deal with on those formats and formulas. But in the rest of the time, and for everyone else here tuning in with us on terrestrial radio or through the apps, all those other ways, you're more than welcome to, of course, be along with us. Don't forget about, particularly on the iHeartRadio app, that talkback feature. Just remember that this is intended for radio use is what I'm going to say for now. But we got a couple of those messages we'll get to here also off the pound 250 system here that I realize mea culpa we didn't get to when we were doing our end of segment yesterday. So we'll definitely get to those today, my promise. But a lot to talk about in the meantime here. Oh, geez. Border issues, the gift that keeps on giving, right? We have got even more. I thought at a certain point, maybe this issue and the evolution of it more specifically would slow down. But, I've been known to be wrong before. And boy, was I wrong about this one, because things are moving even faster in this particular subset of things. I mean, we have new initiatives, cross lawsuits going on right now, and even more, donation efforts, among other things. So, plenty more to talk about there, as we've got lawsuits. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton suing the Biden administration over the asylum plan. Judge ordering the Biden administration to have a different way of dealing with Central American migrants. But donations being solicited for the Border Transportation Funding Initiative out of the Governor Greg Abbott's office. Plus, the lawsuit in the opposite direction, seeking to halt Texas's border trespassing arrests here. So that's almost more than I can say in a breath about all these different cases we got going on. So, and all of them seeking to influence policy, all of these coming very much, really, you want to consider a match having been lit. What was it, middle or earlier this month anyway? Feels like years ago already on this issue, but whenever it was announced that Title 42 was getting the kibosh, that is when this just got ramped up to 11 in so many ways, even if we're looking at more local issues, from this, but in a lot of other ways as well, including fire at Crosby Elementary now being determined to be arson by fire officials, even as, El Paso is a finalist for the All-American City Award. Not totally sure, I guess, what the criteria is there, but raises questions about how we doing, folks out there. Hope you all are staying safe. So that's just a few things we got line here for you today. Also, our interview today going to be with Doug Pullen with the El Paso Community Foundation Program Director over there, talking about, of course, the upcoming Plaza Classic Film Festival. So it's not all doom, gloom, and seriousness. We got some local events coming back in full force, plus the contest that can be entered alongside with it for those, wannabe and burgeoning filmmakers and screenwriters. So we'll get into that here along with all of this today. So that's just some of what we got going on. Of course, we'll get to those phone calls a little bit later in the show as we do here, plus some more events to talk about a little bit later on. So quite the packed docket for us today. So let's dive right in on, let's talk about the most recent decision coming out. Again, headline from the Texas Tribune here today: Judge orders Biden administration to send Central American migrants to Mexico rather than their home country. So this is kind of a follow-up what we've been talking about with that decision from that Louisiana judge, but one of the many that has been affecting these variety of issues coming out, essentially in the reference and end of Title 42 and seeking to further influence policy. Now, a lot of these have been in the works here for some time, but really with the end of Title 42 and then this moving a little bit closer to, actually, I would argue, the Migrant Protection Protocol's MPP, so-called Remain in Mexico policy, though that does then raise questions about how, in this case, Mexico is going to respond here, because unilateral action is involving a border. of its own level of usefulness, I do suppose. But Mexico, on its own part, has previously made it clear that they are only interested in taking, well, not even every one of their neighbors here. To my understanding, it was Belize was excluded from the idea of just through the southern border of Mexico itself here, pulling up my map here, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, leaving out Belize on the other side there. So not entirely sure at this point how they're going to respond to this here because, well, there's more hearings coming up on that as well until May, but a lot of this process is still very much ongoing because, well, I mean, in the scramble here, we still got also that 6-pillar plan coming out of CBP and the Department of Homeland Security saying that they are going to use it. Well, just again, this request coming out of a consortium of attorneys general, including Arizona, amongst others, but also, I mean, Greg Abbott dealing with his own policies on it. That's one of the newer ones here. Connecticut's Attorney General Ken Paxton suing the Biden administration over their asylum plan. Specifically, that the process for migrants seeking asylum, reducing the average wait time from 5 years to 6 months. So another, again, wrinkle in all of this, because that, of course, if you want to even harken back to the State of the Union speech, was another major issue coming out of this and how it's all processed. Again, I want to say that recent stats showed that for, well, anyone ahead of this removal of Title 42 that was awaiting trial, awaiting a hearing in front of an immigration judge, more specifically, because it's not exactly a judicial proceeding. It's not even within the judicial branch. It's an executive branch position, these immigration judges, which may sound like it's a technicality, but it very much informs how the process goes on and how it's handled. So it's an important detail to keep in mind here because that was taking, give or take 2 or 3 years. So, yeah. And also the decisions on asylum here, again, 5 years. So that was just the immigration judge appearances on just removals, many years. That, again, as I hate the phrase, but there's not a better one to use right now, that catch and release system that we have talked way too much about, but look like that's going to be what we're going to keep talking about for the foreseeable future until that, nice, simple little thing called comprehensive immigration reform ever comes up. Yes, that was heavy sarcasm because it's not nice, it's not going to be simple, and I don't see it coming anytime soon. Just given the climate we're in, frankly, I mean, I don't pick winners and losers or even pick a pony when it comes to any of these election races, but I'm going to tend to give a little bit of favor to anyone that says, here is a comprehensive plan, because no one even seems to have the guts right now, and I don't care which side of the aisle you're talking about, to say, here is the comprehensive plan, have at it, because they don't want to get thrown to the wolves themselves. I guess I can't totally blame them here, but I think someone earlier this week said profiles in, or maybe it was last week at this point, I can't believe we're already almost through this week, the idea of profiles and political courage or a lack thereof. And this is definitely one of those, highlighting examples here lately that there's a lot of stopgap. There's a lot of temporary. There's a lot of, let's wait till we find something better. But then they're missing that second part about where that solution is going to come from. So anyone coming up actually with a plan here, as we have RJ and Flaco Jimenez chiming in. RJ saying, it's all good. Mayorkas has a plan. We mustn't get all worked up unless we really care about America, freedom, sovereignty, our economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of concepts in that, et cetera, as well. And Flaco Jimenez with, I'm not sure what that emoji is, but I appreciate the sentiment, I think. Point is that all of this stuff is frustrating, and now we've got, I can't count the amount of times recently, the last 3 administrations, you want to be very specific, including this one here, that has had so much border policy ending up being almost decided by these lawsuits. And this is no difference here, because even with those situations we're talking about, there's even more with more lawsuits, including, again, a lawsuit coming out seeking to halt Texas's border trespassing arrests and give more than $5 million to illegally detained migrants. That the headline from, again, the Texas Tribune here today. So all of these plans, all of these policies getting basically put under the pressure of the courts. These are judicial courts we're talking about here, just not to confuse them with the immigration courts here. And the fact that this is what the policy is coming down to is more than a little frustrating. And this is not even I know I'm not weird on this one. I know a lot of sentiments out there are people listening probably share a similar kind of thing, even if frustration might be a mild way of putting it. But even public policy, other analysts, people in the public sphere, local activists saying, what the hell are we doing? And I think that's a very, very, very relevant question to ask, because, until something gets solved out of this, we're going to keep being this. I mean, it's a Sisyphusian situation. This boulder keeps getting pushed up the hill, but without something actually, a policy to keep it from rolling back down, we keep ending up back there. These stopgaps have to end. And again, Profiles in Political Courage, the headline of the next season, if that were an actual show, would be the person who actually proposed the damn plan, because that's what we're missing here at the moment. We've got letters, sure, but show me the money, show me the legislation on this, and that'll be, well, at the very least, a better start than not, but I don't think we have a start right now. Okay, we got me on my soapbox there a little bit, and we're already time for that break here right now. Again, it's not all doom and gloom today, including the fact that we do have, more local events returning here and more, issues going on in terms of, local, fires, but also some of the other things going on with also Fire and Ice, to be more specific, but also the All-American City Finalist Award. So we got a lot to talk about that affects us here in the borderland along all these other policies. So again, coming up after this break, we're going to be talking with Doug Poland. I spoke with him earlier today about the return in full force of the Plaza Classic Film Festival, the schedule of events that's out so far, plus the contest coming along with it. So all that is to say, we're very much interested in all the facets that are involving us here in El Paso. So, got to take that break right now. Coming out of the break, again, getting to that and a whole lot more. Your comments on the line, RJ Flocka Jimenez, more tuning in, chiming in, dropping those likes. We do appreciate Robbie Flores and Monica Cervantes. But all of that coming up and more. So, your comments, social media, but more after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. You know, it's a great way to relax, making a nice home-cooked meal for yourself and your family and just letting the stress and everything else about the day just melt away. And one of your best ways to make sure that it's a great home-cooked meal that your family will definitely appreciate is by getting your own great set of quality flavored olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and extra virgin olive oils from Enhanced Flavors, because they're your local source for over 40 varieties of all of this. Olive oils coming from some of the best places in the world to source it from: Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain. And of course, although balsamic vinegar is coming straight from the Modena province of Italy. I mean, I love some of their varieties. They've got this fig one that I don't even have the bottle in front of me here now because I used it up, because I use it a lot on, some nice grilled toasted bread. Put it on your stove top, put it in a cast iron pan or whatever have you, and just crisp it up, and it is beautiful, even with a little bit of cheese or whatever. Make a bruschetta, whatever you want to do. Even on ice cream, it works out, because these are how good these flavors are, and you can find them for yourself there out in community. They're often, again, out at the Upper Valley Arts and Farmers Market Sundays. That's near I-10, just west of I-10 once you hit Donovan and Mesa. Technically, they're on Crossroads in the Hobby Lobby parking lot. If you've ever driven by there, you cannot miss it in full force, because that's a great local outdoor event, and you can try samples of what they got going on there. But if you've been hearing about the La Viña Wine Fest that's coming up, you, of course, can find them there as well and try the samples of what they've got and really help spice up your life. But, of course, their full selection and everything online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Traffic on the I-10 is heating up this hour, and it's all due to a crash. I-10 eastbound before the 54 Patriot, an injury accident, just blocking the right shoulder, but it's enough to cause a backup from Loop 375 to the 54 with a 10-minute delay. Also on the I-10 at Copia, an accident that's blocking the right lane with a minor backup. Gateway Boulevard, westbound at Reynolds, a disabled semi-tractor trailer is blocking the right lane. Stay left.
It's a grand in your hand.
$1,000.
No NFTs or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
A Brand in Your Hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Aaron Burr was a complicated man. He supported the end of slavery and was a Revolutionary War hero, and also planned to raise an army to invade Mexico. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-568-2790. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you, even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance to buy $1 million of affordable term life for you. All you need need to do is call Big Lou at 800-568-2790. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-568-2790. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-568-2790. 800-568-2790.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton.
And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean.
So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads.
It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free.
Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
So the dream was to build your very own law practice. Be your own boss, call all the shots. But have things like billing, HR, timekeeping, and all the other management stuff turned your dream into a nightmare? Take charge of your practice with Lexicon. We're the intersection of practice management software and legal support services for your firm. You'll get more billable and livable hours back. Lexicon marks the spot for all your practice management needs. Visit lexiconservices.com/intersection to get the whole story or schedule a demo.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing. So a lot of ways to get at us on the show here. Of course, we've got the social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. On most of those, we'll open up those phone lines a little bit later in the program, as we usually do as well. But in the meantime, we are joined now here in studio by Doug Pullen, Program Director with the El Paso Community Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Sure. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, because it's been a minute since we checked in, and a lot of different circumstances, situations, and opportunities going on right now. People may be most familiar with you with the Community Foundation of the Plaza Classic Film Festival, which is returning this year in full force, right?
Correct. As long as the variants, hold out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, TBD, but the current planning and the current trajectory is everything coming back as planned. And there's actually a lot of stuff that is going on. I mean, there's been some of the schedule coming in. People can find out more about that. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the very specific things going on at this moment, announced actually as of this week, and also going on currently as well, is a couple of submissions and essentially competitions.
Correct. Yeah. In early March, we announced our annual Local Flavor Showcase.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a local and locally connected film showcase. The idea there is to create a place for particularly local filmmakers to get their work shown and hopefully award some of them with some cash prizes. And so we announced that we're accepting entries through June 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And we're giving out $2,500 in prizes again this year. First prize gets $1,000, for example. And this year, instead of 2 shorter programs in a smaller facility, we're curating them into one program that will be in the Plaza Theater for the first time, and that'll be on August the 4th. So we'll show the curated entries. These are the selections that we've made. That's me and the other 2 coordinators, Zach Passero and Lucky McKee. We'll show those there. We'll do a live text to vote for an audience favorite.
Okay.
And then at the end of the Q&A after the program, they'll do a director's Q&A. We'll announce and hand out the awards to the winners. And then we also hope to, we don't have all the details yet, but we're hoping to have an after party across the street at one of the locations that's very near.
Absolutely here. So again, we're talking about the Plaza Classic Film Festival and the submissions going on through that. And again, just the dates being already, these are out here in good. July 28th through August 7th here, coming up in a month or so, and going over across the span of the next month there. And so again, these things coming up here, again, the local flavor, the submissions here again, and those prizes, people can find the information on this. I mean, plazaclassic.com. and then find the link for it, but it's a /local flavor if you want to head there directly. And so, I mean, you got some guidelines and submission things there, but the one that you have just announced now, of course, is the screenwriting competition.
Yeah, this is our first one. This is an idea that's kicked around a little bit. From my side of things, both being on the receiving end of a lot of the stuff that's submitted and then occasionally being asked to help judge something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the areas, that's weaker is the screenwriting. Somebody's really good with the camera, or they know how to do great effects, or, but sometimes the stories don't add up. And we thought it might be a way to try to address that a little bit and encourage. So this idea had kind of kicked around for a couple of years, but with the pandemic, just didn't act on it.
Well, of course.
And then Austin Savage, who's the founder of the Border Theater here, and also a recent MFA screenwriting graduate from Emerson College. Hey, what did you do during the pandemic? He came to me in the fall about doing something like this, and it clicked, and we, he's been through these. He won a prestigious award through the blacklist, and he's submitted into things like this. So between him, me doing some research, we came up with kind of an introductory version. Let's keep it simple for the first year, and maybe we can build this thing. And so that's the idea. One big difference is local flavor is restricted to films that have local connections. Doesn't have to be a local film, but it could be somebody from here who made it, or it could be set here, just as long as it ties in.
Justify it for its local connection. Absolutely.
Yeah. And with the screenwriting competition, we don't have that requirement.
Oh, okay.
So, somebody from Switzerland could enter for all we know. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but
good.
So far the entries that have come in since we announced it are all local.
Okay.
But that person will win one winner will be chosen. That winning script will the writer receives $500. And then we're going to do a table read on the last day of the film festival, August 7th. We traditionally do something called the Filmmakers Brunch. And sometimes it's a demo, sometimes it's just different things. And this year we're going to do the table read. And this way that script can come to life. And then we're going to have a few professionals there who can be on the receiving end of it. And they can then give that writer advice, what you need to do. Here's what your prospects are. Here's what you need to do if you want to get this made, like to take it above, doing it with your buddies kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So really professionalizing it here. And again, that's open to anyone 18 years and older. And there is a cost to submit here for this. And it's kind of on this rolling basis. It's currently $30 through May 20th, and then goes up about kind of looks like $10 per half month up until the start of the festival.
Yeah, the deadline, the ultimate deadline is June 27th. And that at that point, the entry is $50. So ideally, enter sooner, it's cheaper. And for an additional $15, they can get what's called coverage, which is an analysis, a professional analysis of the script, and feedback basically from a pro. The readers, the people who are reading these, are MFA grads and screenwriters that Austin and Drew Mayer Oakes, who is with the El Paso Film and Creative Industries Commission, they are sponsoring the screenwriting contest. And Drew is leaning on some of the people he knows. I'm leaning on a few, and Austin's reaching out to a few, and that's how we're going to do the reading. And it's a point system, so everything will be there's 5 categories, I think 10 points each.
Okay.
And it'll be those cumulative scores that determine. We hope to announce 10 finalists.
Oh, okay.
One of the ideas, and it's an idea, we haven't sorted it out, is to maybe try to do a pitch fest where the 10 finalists can pitch their screenplay to the audience, and then the audience is the producer. But like I said, we don't have that worked out. That's just something we're working on, but it may not happen.
Absolutely. Here again, we are talking about this in context of course, the Plaza Classic Film Festival coming up July 28th through August 7th. Some announcements being made already about including these competitions and a little bit about the schedule, but more will be coming as we get closer to it. So again, you want to find out any information about that, all the details of it, plazaclassic.com. And then just look for, these specific links here, the different aspects we're talking about here, local flavor, film, screenwriting, all that good stuff here. So more specifically, of course, we have got the actual festival coming up here. And so this is all going to be, a part of it and going along with it and being shown and dealt with in different ways. But of course, the schedule of it is one of the biggest questions that come out. And again, more will be forthcoming here, but there is some out there that you can talk about already. Particularly the themes are something I'm always interested in, and how you're putting it together, of the kind of the, not exactly a rote, but overarching concepts that play into more often than not a lot of the films.
Yeah, some more obvious than others. The three main themes, the big one, the overarching theme is, and I don't have a pithy name for it, but it's the celebration of women filmmakers. 20, I think it's between 20 and 30 of the titles we're going to show are either directed by women, or in one or two cases, documentaries about female directors. And it's a survey. So it starts with the silent era, when female directors were more common, and goes through those years where the studio system kind of pushed women out of those top creative roles, and then comes up to modern day. So the earliest titles we're going to show are from, I think the earliest one's from 1901 by Alice Guy Blanchet, a French filmmaker.
Okay.
We have a program devoted to her that we're going to show at the Art Museum Auditorium. And we have a documentary about her that we're going to show right after that. And that's narrated by Jodie Foster. It's called Be Natural. And we're going to go from that up to about Hurt Locker, Catherine Bigelow.
Okay. Yeah. So drawing that straight to the modern day here.
What I want people to do is see that movie or whatever and go, oh, man, I didn't know a woman directed.
I can say that for myself right now. Yeah, absolutely. Was not fully aware of that here. Yeah. So
most people aren't.
Yeah, so interesting concept there. And then of course you got some more interesting titles here that there may or may not be more activity happening around, like some ones that I'm very much looking forward to, such as Amadeus, the 1922 Robin Hood, Rebel Without a Cause, because again, it's a classic film festival, and I feel like there's often a lot of discussion about, well, okay, well, why is that a classic? Because it's both current and modern. And you said so. Yeah.
I'm kidding. No, when I came on board, I didn't have the pedigree of my predecessor, and my feeling was, this is a large film festival and you have to keep evolving it, and you also have to keep evolving your audience. And my first year doing it, one of the movies I booked that I caught some flack for was the very first Harry Potter movie, which we showed in the Philanthropy Theater. And I was standing outside of the theater when it was letting out. It was sold out. And I was talking to somebody and I said, that's your future classic film festival audience. These are all high school, college kids all dressed up like Potter characters. So this year we've been trying to show a Potter movie every year, but we get interrupted by various things. And this year we're showing Order of the Phoenix, which is the fifth Potter movie. So chronologically, it's the next one for us to show. And it's also going to be shown on 35 millimeters. So you have that classic film festival approach to it, but the movie's 15 years old.
Yeah, geez, that put it that way makes me feel away. But again, the idea of it being that both getting people out in the community, again, going back full force this year after many kind of stop starts and interesting experiments that we've talked about over the year. But again, the way you're talking about it there is interesting, because I mean, how many people that have memories of even going to the Plaza back in its previous life and previous full-on use as a theater, and before it became what it is now, as a kind of a performing venue, was I remember going there and seeing this performance or seeing this movie, and it wasn't that it was old at the time, it's that it was new then, but it has aged over time and gotten to your memory. So getting that experience to another generation, I mean, if you're not making new classics, there aren't going to be any more classics, essentially.
Yeah, and the whole thing of what's a classic is kind of almost like a personal thing. I think it's something that stands the test of time, and if you want to expand that, if you've got something newer that you believe is going to be considered a classic, there are movies that we've shown, at Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life, or Wizard of Oz. Those movies weren't necessarily successful when they came out, and time was good to them. And they're good movies, they're great movies, but there are movies that we show that are pretty obvious. Like we're bringing back Singing in the Rain. It's the 70th anniversary of that movie. And honestly, it's to me the right tone for how I want to start this year's film festival after 2 years of pandemic and cultural divides and you name it. this is something where we can all just get along, kind of thing.
All right.
And then in terms of some other themes, we are doing kind of an Outlaws theme, movie Outlaws.
Okay.
Which was inspired by the selection of Douglas Fairbanks in Robin Hood from 1922. It's a silent movie. And it was one of the movies Jay Duncan, who is on our programming committee, Jay suggested it. It's a 100th anniversary.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So coming out of last film festival, I'm always tired, but I was also kind of disconsolate because I sort of felt like I had no focus. And so Jay threw me a list and I saw that and I was like, can we even find that? You know, like what archive do we have to go to? And I found it that day and they sent me a link to a 2K restoration. And I was like, that's it. You know, we can get this. And I reached out to Walt Stroni. Can you play this? He said, yeah, let's do it. And so it kind of went from there. That was in September last year.
Right, because the fact that fascinates me about you go about this is essentially as well previously anyway, and I'm sure it's been even weirder now that as soon as one is over, you start planning the next film festival. So that's it's been even more of a rolling kind of indeterminate process this whole time.
This year, a lot of ideas for 23 actually have come up in the programming of this.
Okay.
One. And I have notes for 23. I have notes for 24, and I haven't started my 2025 notes yet. But you know, give it a month and that'll start.
It'll start there. So I mean, let's get through this one here and then get 3 years out. So again, we were talking about the Plaza Classic Film Festival that happening July 28th through August 7th. And again, a couple of current things going on right now. There'll be more announcements about scheduling, guests as well coming up that we'll keep talking about. But again, we've got the local flavor submissions that are now being accepted for a total of $2,500 in cash prizes for the top 3 there. So those submissions, that is a free submission that must be submitted by Monday, June 20th. And of course, the one that you've been announcing this week, the Plaza Classic screenwriting competition, there's a submission fee there on a rolling basis through essentially the start of the festival itself here. And for all the information, all the submission on all of this, plazaclassic.com is where they can go to find all that.
Yeah, it should be there. And we'll be posting more as we go along.
Absolutely here. So again, guest right now, that's Doug Pullen, program director with the El Paso Community Foundation. Thank you very much for coming in to talk with us about these details, how people can get involved, what you're looking for, how to work, and of course, what we got out for right now with more to come about the film festival here today.
Thank you.
Absolutely here. So that's going to take us through our next break. So coming out of this break, we'll get more to the talk about the issues affecting us here in the borderland now. Of course, events are a good part of it here, but we'll get back to more of the day's news and our analysis of it here coming up after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
This is Erica Castillo with your KFOX 14 news update. The 15-year-old boy stabbed and killed along Alameda was ambushed in front of a food business, according to the arrest affidavit for one of the suspects. Kevin Gonzalez was stabbed multiple times with an unknown sharp weapon, allegedly by 16-year-old Jorge Juarez. Gonzalez was seen on surveillance footage heading home, then leaving it minutes later and heading to Doña Lupita Tamales 2 in El Paso's Lower Valley, according to the affidavit. Gonzalez was seen ambushed outside the business by 2 males. The 2 males are seen assaulting and stabbing him before getting away in a white 4-door vehicle. Cameras captured Gonzalez running toward Alameda, looking for help from motorists at the intersection of Alameda and Midway near Riverside High School. Juarez allegedly confessed to the stabbing murder of Gonzalez to police. Juarez told detectives he, Christopher Carrillo, and a 15-year-old had planned to rob Gonzalez and split the money 3 ways. The 2 17-year-olds are being held on $1.5 million bond. The minor is also in custody. I'm Erica Castillo with his KFOX 14 news update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On the I-10 eastbound, watch for a crash at Piedras. It's blocking the 4 center lanes and causing quite a backup. Stop and go traffic on the 10 eastbound between Porfirio Diaz and Campbell, 20-minute delays. Disabled vehicles blocking the right lane on Gateway Boulevard westbound at Reynolds, and another stalled vehicle, I-10 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard. That's blocking the right shoulder. Stay left. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The patchy dust will settle and the winds will stay slightly breezy for the rest of the night. Expect a mostly clear sky overhead with temperatures dropping into the lower 50s in Las Cruces to the upper 50s in El Paso. Coming up tonight, I'm tracking above average temperatures and more wind as we wrap up the work week. Plus, a look at your weekend forecast. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is paid for by NHTSA. Leaving a child in a hot vehicle can lead to their death very quickly. Set cell phone reminders or place something you'll need in the back seat so you don't forget your child is in the car. Look for your baby before you lock. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Lavinia presents its Spring Wine Festival, Saturday, April 30th and Sunday, May 1st from noon to 7. Over 20 wines available for tasting and purchase. Live music, local art and craft vendors, delicious Southwestern food. Get all the information at laviniawinery.com.
Aaron Burr was a complicated man. He supported the end of slavery and was a Revolutionary War hero, and also planned to raise an army to invade Mexico. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages where, well, some people got into it a little bit earlier here. Andrew Ziggurat saying, dude, I already got a buzz. Yeah, it definitely looks like some people got into the haterade here a little bit early. Calling it, well, it's newsworthy, bread and circuses while our country is dipping its toes in a world war. Like, yeah, there's important stuff going on here, but if you can't take a minute and talk about a otherwise nice local event, as Calvin Williams wishing us a good afternoon here, among other things, I'm going to need you to go outside for a little bit. Like, seriously, like, keep something in perspective. Sure, there are bad things happening pretty constantly around the world. If you go into absolute aspects of it, maybe not on the huge national scale, but even individually, and yet we still got things pretty good around here, but there are important things to talk about to hopefully keep that way and maybe improve things as we can. But if you're just, it's like there's some metalheads out there. I don't listen to anything that doesn't make my ears constantly bleed. Like, sure, you want to be that hardcore, go right ahead, but the rest of us maybe will like try to enjoy life here a little bit. I feel like this happens every time we do a not hardcore news interview. Someone comes out and says, why isn't this talking about people on fire only? Like, come on. Seriously. RJ asking the real questions here. Any pretty movie stars with dangerous female curves coming to town? Asking for a friend who's a dirty old man. So actually, simple answer, yes, but those announcements will be coming. They're going to be coming out with the guest list a little bit closer to the actual film festival itself. We'll probably be having them on air a couple more times in some of our other formats as well, including the El Paso History Radio Show, a little bit closer to the film festival itself. So essentially, stay tuned here. But some other comments about it. Speaking about going outside and touching grass, John Browse is letting us know that he mowed the backyard for the third time this spring. It's not even summer yet. And yeah, it has been, things have seemed green out there. Just was looking out across the way coming down towards Mesa and looking out towards, well, the other side of the Mesa in Santa Teresa, and was struck by how just kind of green things look out there without it having been that much here. But we do have serious issues that we'll delve back into, of course, here. Consider it a nice break from the otherwise doom and gloom here. Louis Pinato on a real point saying comprehensive. All we need to do is enforce the laws on the books and post the border patrol or patrol the border rather with our own troops here. And that's kind of being attempted. I'm not sure what's actually working out with that. I mean, the Texas efforts have had their own issues along with it. And again, some of those lawsuits, that one we referred to earlier, now a actual suit against the Abbott administration efforts to halt the Texas border trespassing arrests. We'll see how that one ends up working out. So, I mean, there's a lot still being worked on these policies here, but focusing very locally here for the moment. A lot more comments coming here. Maria Coleman also saying, attaching DACA and amnesty is an impediment to an immigration bill passage. Neither side appears to think ready to make concessions being said there, resulting in a stalemate and nothing gets resolved. Yeah, again, with bipartisanship kind of being a four-letter word lately, I'm not terrifically surprised. But again, the idea of profiles and political courage being very necessary here. Calvin was just saying, no, not until May here. But a lot of other stuff going on, just specifically locally, kind of a give and take day when we're talking about news for the city here. Again, El Paso announced as a finalist for the All-American City Award, which has come up as an interesting issue, given the issues that we're also looking at the same time. Again, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14, El Paso fire officials determined fire at Crosby Elementary School was arson. And then we had, of course, during the news update there at the bottom of the hour, more on that stabbing that did happen that left a minor dead with 3 others in custody. So we still got issues, and it's a little bit interesting that it comes at the time when, because I'd actually heard, I was wondering about the status of that, about the All-American City status, and people bringing up, Kelvin was clarifying, no mow May, no grass cutting in May. Good luck with that, because I know I start getting a jungle wherever water ends up landing myself. Thank you, Flo Jimenez, backing us up here a little bit. Appreciate it. Saying that this should be just about various topics, not just political. I mean, we're about all the stuff affecting the borderland region. We're not exactly an arts and entertainment kind of thing, but we can dip our toes into that from time being. Do appreciate that. John Browsleton on the idea of these profiles and political courage. Again, that's why we need the midterm elections, saying that with Republican majorities, we can finally get Congress off neutral. I'm on the fence about that, because even with just voters, it's a whole lot easier to essentially prove the negative, to put it into scientific speak. But really what it means that it's a whole lot easier to say, hey, this is bad and we shouldn't do it, or this is bad and we shouldn't let it happen, as opposed to, and here's what we do about it. I mean, it's just kind of the easier way to do it. It's always easier to throw rocks than to use them to actually build up something. So I would love to see them actually take action out of this upcoming midterm election, but I think accountability is going to be key with it, among other things. Those that were on the left that I know that kind of held their noses and voted blue in this last presidential election said, and we'll hold this administration accountable. And that has proved, shall we say, fleeting. And sure, there's probably going to be a lot put on to the idea of, well, we didn't have full control of the split Senate. And we're actually seeing that current argument right now. And this definitely affects people in the borderland, my generation and below. Certainly, the conversation about student loan forgiveness that seems to just be creeping up back then. And with conversations I've had with my friends and loved ones, I mean, this trajectory can already be seen. That we've had this piecemeal. I actually got the notification yesterday that my student loans, because yes, I still have some, not overwhelming, but enough to be unhappy about, essentially. Well, I mean, it's a loan. What are you going to be happy about it? Point is that has been announced that, oh, there's another actual, hiatus on it, another postponement until August now on the federal side of things. So here's my expectation, and this is borne out so far. Someone, again, near and dear to me, called this some months back, and the playbook is pretty well barely laid out, that this is going to keep being probably postponed, probably one more postponement coming till probably just after the election. And they will keep bringing up this idea. Again, it was floated by the White House recently. I think Jen Psaki mentioned it, if not actual official statements, of looking into the idea of student loan forgiveness, the 1.9 billion trillion, however many they're actually looking at in the scope of it, because they've been doing this kind of piecemeal. Oh, it's certain categories, certain like low income or certain categories that have had differences in their education and lifestyle, whatever kind of process coming up so far. And that's kind of going to probably keep getting doled out right up until the election. And if the election, well, two ways it goes. the election goes, the trajectory, it seems like, oh, shoot, well, we ran out of time, guys. You better vote for us in office next time because we totally would have done it if you'd voted for us. Or if they get in, oh, yeah, you voted for us again. Now we're totally going to focus on the important things, and this will fall by the wayside again. So that's one specific issue, but yeah, let's just say that I expect a similar kind of playbook with a number of other ones here. That's going to take us through our next break right now. And at this point, we're going to do what we usually do at this point in the show and open up those phone lines because, well, getting to those calls and comments online is important as well. A whole lot more to talk about here, and we got to get to a lot of it, so we'll squeeze in more what we can. But if you wanted to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Piedras, an accident is blocking the 3 center lanes and causing an 11-minute backup back to Porfirio Diaz. Police are responding to a crash border highway westbound at Fonseca, an injury accident Gateway Boulevard westbound before McRae at Caper Road. And I-10 westbound starting to slow down at Wrestler with 5 to 10 minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is paid for by NHTSA. Leaving a child in a hot vehicle can lead to their death very quickly. Set cell phone reminders or place something you'll need in the back seat so you don't forget your child is in the car. Look for your baby before you lock. Brought to you by NHTSA.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Spending time outdoors can improve overall health and wellness. Celebrate Earth Day and take advantage of nature's health benefits by visiting a local park. Recreate responsibly to protect yourself and others and to make the outdoors safe and welcoming for people of all identities and abilities. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. You know, there's a lot of ways to protect your home. You could dig a moat. You could bubble wrap it. Or you could train a pack of wolves to protect it. But the best way is with the Flex Seal family of products. So when you need to patch, bond, seal, repair, and stop leaks fast, get the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
Aaron Burr was a complicated man. He supported the end of slavery and was a Revolutionary War hero, and also planned to raise an army to invade Mexico. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us here. Of course, we got that phone line open right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days as well, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. RJ saying most recently over on the YouTube page, can't believe Mayorkas blames the previous administration for the Biden open border policy. The left is living in a total grand illusion here. Yeah, saying that all of this is caused by the previous administration is a little bit, well, lacking since, sure, strip away policy you don't like and then replace it with the parts that you do or actions that you do. But they're kind of missing that second part of replacing, because right now it's just back to status quo. And yeah, that's why there's outcries happening from, well, both sides of the aisle on this one. But again, the trajectory looking at for those midterm elections, probably not going to go too well in the favor of the party in power right now. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, 915-544-5876, 547-654-KTSM. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Bringing up the student loans, it's
Mhm.
a familiar pattern where the government gets involved. It's happened with healthcare too. So when the government gets involved, somehow the prices end up getting driven so high that poor people can no longer afford it. And so in order for poor people to afford it, the government has to give poor people money so they can afford it. But it all starts with the government getting involved in the first place. And that happened with healthcare, and it happened with the student loans. So it used to be that a bank would look at you and say, okay, how much money you need, what kind of career you're going to go into. And let's say you're going to be an engineer and it's going to cost this much. Like, the bank would look at the situation and say, oh, that's a good investment. We think you're going to be able to pay that off because engineers usually make this much money, and so on and so forth. But when the government got involved, what happened was they guaranteed the student loans for those banks, so you can't default on a student loan. And so the banks could just loan out as much money knowing they were going to get the money back. And as soon as that happened, the market was flooded with all that money. The schools could start charging more, and that's when tuition started skyrocketing. So that's kind of basically how all that went down. And now you got all these people with careers, or at least, I guess, degrees that don't pay very much money, and they made the decision to go into a certain career that doesn't pay very well, or there's no jobs available, because the banks were sifting between which was a good decision on which degree to get and which not. So that's how people got into this situation. And you also have a situation where making good decisions and being responsible kind of makes you a sucker. And I'll explain what that means. So let's say you become a professional, you get in a lot of debt, and you work hard and you start paying it off. Maybe you get good credit, and you then go to a private lender and say, hey, I've got good credit. I'm paying off my loans. Will you get me a better interest rate? Because the Fed loan is 6.5% or whatever it is. But a private bank might take your loan on because you have good credit, you've been responsible, you're working, and they might give you 4%. And it's like, wow, that's a really smart idea. You'll pay less interest over the course of your loan, and you're being responsible. Well, anybody who did that actually is going to end up paying more, because people who maybe didn't make as good decisions, weren't as responsible, they're getting the breaks, and they're going to get the forgiveness, and they're going to get no interest and all that stuff. So it's one of those things where the incentives have been flipped on their head, and the people who are making good decisions get penalized. And, that's on top of the idea that the people who never even went to school are going to be paying with their taxes to pay for the people who did go to school to pay off their student loans, which isn't very fair either. So that's my opinion on it.
I mean, yeah, it's not a simple issue at all. I mean, I was just bringing up the part about how it's this kind of carrot and stick kind of thing going on, coming out of the administration right now. But yeah, how we got here is an interesting road to trace as well. So tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. But coming out of this break, we'll talk more about this and more of the issues here, because I mean, that is an interesting one to get into. So appreciate the point in the call. We'll take more on the line here coming out of this break. Again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690
Big crash on the I-10 eastbound at Piedras. Earlier, 4 lanes were blocked. Now it's just 1 left lane that's blocked, but there's still a backup on the eastbound I-10 between Cotton and Reynolds with 10-minute delays. Border Highway westbound at Yarborough, police responding to an accident there. A crash blocking the right shoulder on Loop 375 southbound
News on
before
the hour
Iron Medics.
and a
It's
half.
backing up traffic to
and
Liberty
weather all
Expressway.
day.
Carrie
News
Edwards, El
Radio
Paso traffic.
690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The White House is pushing hard for quick congressional passage of a new Ukraine aid package. However, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the administration is not linking COVID and Ukraine funding requests.
We're not making a predetermination of that from here. We put forward both of these funding requests today.
White House officials want $22 billion to continue funding COVID programs involving vaccines, treatments, and related services. Meantime, President Biden is asking for $33 billion in additional assistance for Ukraine. The so-called Heartbeat Act has made its way to the desk of Oklahoma's Republican governor. That's after the state House of Representatives gave final approval to the measure today. It prohibits abortion after a fetal heartbeat is detected, usually around 6 weeks of gestation, before many women know they're pregnant. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is closing over 600 points higher as the market has a major day of rebounds. The Nasdaq also closed much higher thanks to earnings reports from tech stocks. Apple reported strong earnings after the bell, while Amazon reported a poor forecast for the next quarter. Cases of severe hepatitis seen in children around the world may actually be linked to adenovirus infections.
That's according to a new report from the World Health Organization that also said more investigation is needed. So far, the U.S. and 10 other countries have reported nearly 170 severe hepatitis cases in children between 1 month and 16 years old. At least 17 of those cases have resulted in children needing liver transplants. WHO officials say 74 of the children so far have tested positive for adenovirus. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Loud booms and vibrations felt by thousands of residents across Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas early Wednesday morning were caused by a meteor. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Congressional Democrats are making moves on lowering gas prices. Dina Kodiak has more.
It is our top priority, and higher gas prices is the place where Americans feel it the most.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said his party is preparing legislation to address the pain at the pump. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called it Putin's price hike, referring to global fallout from Russia's war against Ukraine. Pelosi and Schumer also accused big oil companies of profiteering and manipulating energy markets during this time of soaring gas prices.
The FDA is proposing a ban on the sale of menthol cigarettes because menthol, a flavor additive, makes smoking less harsh and gives a cooling sensation. The FDA hopes banning a product with such appeal will help more smokers quit. The FDA is especially targeting young smokers with the ban, which includes other characterizing flavors such as strawberry or fruit punch. A family in San Diego County is planning a memorial service after their son died following a Border Patrol pursuit. Eddie McCoven reports.
19-year-old Jesus Saldana died last week after he lost control of his car on the 8 freeway in El Cajon near Highway 67 after Border Patrol agents were chasing him in the mountains. His girlfriend, Amarani Rodriguez, says he was a dedicated athlete and played on a number of soccer teams in San Diego County.
His dream was always to become a professional soccer player. He was planning to go to León to start playing over there.
The Border Patrol said they began chasing after Saldana near Buckman Springs last Saturday, but eventually lost sight of him. I'm Eddie McCoven.
The hunt is on for Tonka the Chimp. An actor who starred in a movie alongside Tonka is doubling the reward for information that brings him home. TMZ is reporting Alan Cumming, who co-starred with Tonka in the 1997 comedy Buddy, is offering $10,000 to anyone with information about Tonka's whereabouts. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. WIN. That's WIN. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Breakfast Biscuit Sandwich. Just $1. Wendy's knows a better breakfast starts with a better biscuit. That's why you can get a hot and buttery Wendy's breakfast biscuit with bacon or sausage, fresh cracked egg and cheese for just $1. Get your Wendy's Buck Biscuit Sandwich today. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages. We're on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Either of those places, under either of those names, really, Talk El Paso and Andrew J. Polk, you're probably going to be able to find us and chime in if you want to. A lot of people doing so right now. Skeptic Squad out in full force here today. Calvin Williams, RJ, John Brazelton, Flaco Jimenez, Louis Pinato, Ed Clore, Andrew Zignorant, among others here. So if you wanted to chime in over there, the conversation often takes on its own tenor here, and do have to give out the gold star as requested here. John Brazelton saying he voted today. Yes, you do get a gold star, or I thought I had it in front of me here. Whatever the current I voted sticker looks like. So, I mean, wear and proud, because that's important, particularly given that these are very important elections we're dealing with right now. All of them. I mean, 3 really on the docket right now, top of mind. We got the 2 this month. Again, just to lay that out concretely here, we have the uniform and special election that has those constitutional amendments on them. If you're in the city of San Elizario or Anthony, you got a couple of specific like city council and mayor places you're voting for. But then all across the rest of, including all Texas, you're going to have those 2 Texas state propositions that would change the formula for property taxing, which is ever so slightly important here. All right, getting a request to ring the bell here. I haven't done that in a while. So, there you go. Bell for John there. The closest we got to a gold star in an audio way. Anyway, we also have that phone line open, by the way. Someone calling in right now is reminding me that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. So, I mean, these are just ever so slightly, again, the number 2 is the main one that is getting a lot of the focus, because it changes what the taxation formula can be for those that can qualify for the homestead exemptions by changing it from $25,000 to $40,000, and a little bit more clarity on the first one as well. It also changes the formula of those already under it, because in some cases, the actual amount of taxation on, well, homestead exempted homes was frozen. So as we were looking at some of these rates being dropped, it might actually make it so that, well, your rate can't drop. So that is why both of these are important to get. If you're concerned about, well, the taxation, the property tax levels here in the area, you might just want to, well, pay attention to these. Make sure and make your plan to go out and vote right now. So that's the one that we got early voting going on right now. But then later this month, and so, yeah, early voting going on through a little bit later, going to be the exact date here. That is going to be going on through, again, have the date in front of me here. It's going to be going on through May 7th is the actual election day, because then the other one, that is the primary runoff election. That early voting was going on through May 16th through the 20th, and then Election Day, Tuesday, May 24th. So just keep them straight. Mark them down in your calendar right now that we've got May 24th, primary runoff election, and then, of course, for the uniform and special election, to be of the Saturday, May 7th as election day. So just go out and early vote before that. All your questions could be answered over at epcountyvotes.com here. And Kelvin Williams also asking for a link to the film festival. Yeah, I mean, real simply, it is plazaclassic.com, but we'll put up that link here shortly because, yeah, if you want to check out that, they've got some more announcements coming up, but you can find out about those contests we were talking about with Doug Pullen, program director with the El Paso Community Foundation, up there right now. So, again, thanks to him for coming in here. So, again, if you want to call in and comment during the show, social media, good way for the comments, but then calling in 915-544-5876-544 KTSM. Got a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew from the West Side.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Just wanted to discuss this lawsuit against Texas for prosecuting illegal immigrants for criminal trespass.
Yes. So, seeking to halt the border trespass arrest specifically, but also looking at $5 million being given back to those illegally detained, as the lawsuit claims.
Well, I'd like to know what their definition of illegally detained is, because I don't care who you are, you have no right to illegally be on somebody's land.
Absolutely. But so according to the actual filing here, and quoting from the Texas Tribune here, and they're reporting on this, under the guise of state criminal trespass laws, but with the explicit stated goal of punishing migrants based on their immigration status, Texas officials are targeting migrants. Hundreds of those arrested have waited in jail for weeks or months without a lawyer, or without charges, or without bond, or without a legitimate detention hold, or without a court date. Again, quoting directly from the filing in this suit filed here in Texas.
Well, that's pure political malarkey on the part of these left-wing legal zealots, as I call them. Because number one, people, under Texas law, you have to have certain hearings within certain dates, and people can qualify for court-appointed lawyers. I mean, these people need to look at their 2801 of the Penal Code. It specifically details that. Number two, now we have these people advocating for these people that are criminally trespassing here in Texas. And then if you trespass in the Capitol, you're locked away in solitary confinement and punished up to 3 years in jail. Unequal justice, I say.
Yeah, unequal, I would say, is definitely a good phrase for it here. I guess the other bit of context that does come out of this, after there was that, previous decision by a Texas, I believe, circuit judge, I want to say based out of El Paso, not finding the exact reference to it here, that determined that a lot of these state trespassing arrests were essentially, they were not legitimate in their own right here. So that is this is essentially the follow-up to that initial decision, and this is being based on.
Well, once again, I call into question what is this judge's interpretation of legitimate or illegitimate. Okay, a lot of judges like to legislate from the bench. But anyway, one other point I wanted to make, and people can determine for themselves.
Sure.
Okay. These people on the left want these illegal immigrants in. They're putting them up in some of the nicest hotels, whereas we've got veterans that are living on the street. In other words, what I'm saying is we treat illegal immigrants better than we do our own veterans that have served this country.
I'll say this, because this is something that comes up a lot here. I wouldn't say we necessarily treat them better on the bulk. We definitely seem to pay a lot more attention to them. That is something I will fully agree on, because the focus on this issue in all of its ways. But I mean, both, I wouldn't say that I'd rather be in the shoes of any veteran, homeless or not, in the United States than any migrant here. But that you do bring up a good point, that there are definitely services that are lacking. I mean, anyone that I know that is not even homeless, that are still having to deal with the system set up that veterans are supposed to receive their benefits from, the VA in general. Not knock against any particular person who may or may not be listening to this broadcast that works in this agency, but it's hard to deny that there are issues with it. I mean, I have had friends that have said, essentially, screw this. I'm not even going through the system anymore. I'm just going to pay out of pocket because of the months or even years it takes to get through sometimes. So there are definite issues there. And yeah, that's not great. And I think that both of these things should get focused on. I guess I dislike it sometimes when people say, well, let's deal with our veterans first. But also oftentimes here, and not a dig on you necessarily, Andrew, but in general, the conversation on this is these aren't also the people that have anything to say about veterans when this issue doesn't come up. And that's what also irks me.
Well, like you said, like I've said in the past, you get what you vote for. So
that's true.
You deserve what you get if these are the type of people you voted for. So my deal is this, okay? Take a look at who's in office. Take a look at who's spending your money.
Mm-hmm.
Now the president is asking for billions and billions more for aid to Ukraine.
Right.
Whereas we are struggling over here, our taxes are going up. Oh, that's another thing. Speaking of taxes, I encourage everybody to protest their taxes. Do it.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's actually expectations at this point from a lot of the organizations that are reporting on this in the local situation that average amount, it's between like 15 and 18%, depending on how you look at it, could drop based on the amount of anticipated, protestations of these valuations. Because, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that your house has had anything done to it. It's based on the sale value around it. So if you're thinking that this does not match up with it, yes, there is maybe some work you have to put into it, but at the very least, look at it, see if it'd be right for you to take those further steps here, because if you don't do anything, well, you definitely know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing, as Columbo used to say.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, folks, these left-wing zealots, legal zealots want to give $5 million to these supposedly illegally incarcerated immigrants. Well, just remember how many people we have in this county alone and along the border that are struggling to pay the rent and are hillbilly's heartbeat away from being kicked out onto the street.
Yeah, that specific number coming out, by the way, from that 18,000 for each day that each individual was in prison beyond was allowed by state law is what the again lawsuit in this case states as relief.
This is a travesty. Anyway, Andrew, I turn the mic over to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
All right. You know what? Actually, we've got to take that next break right now. We're going to get to more calls on the line here. Got some more coming in, and we'll get to more here. If you want to leave your comment or call in that way, I should say 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM is the number to call. You can also leave your comments over on the social media. Calvin Williams, Monica Cervantes, John Brazelton, RJ, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. Flaco Jimenez also dropping those likes, which we do appreciate. Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes there as well. But we'll be back with all of this and more here on Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Big crash on the I-10 eastbound at Piedras. Earlier, 4 lanes were blocked. Now it's just 1 left lane that's blocked, but there's still a backup on the eastbound I-10 between Cotton and Reynolds with 10-minute delays. Border Highway westbound at Yarborough, police responding to an accident there. A crash blocking the right shoulder on Loop 375 southbound before Iron Medics. It's backing up traffic to Liberty Expressway. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Need to hire? Need Indeed. Their hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents. And Doug.
Don't you just love the smell of old books? Shh, this is a library. Sorry, ma'am. We're looking for a book titled Liberty Mutual Customizes Your Car Insurance so you only pay for what you need. I don't think we carry that, but check nonfiction. He really does devour literature. Please leave. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
If your office is reopening, Staples has you covered.
With office essentials like snacks, water, and coffee for the break room?
Staples has you covered.
How about custom printing and office supplies?
Covered.
And what about savings?
Staples has you covered there too. And now save even more, because this week when you spend $100 on anything in store, you'll earn a $30 store bonus.
That should cover it.
Staples, the working and learning store. Limit 1, ends 4/30. Rewards members only. Bonus must be redeemed in store. See staplesconnect.com/store bonus for details.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at the show here, some of them being mentioned. Of course, we got that phone line open right now. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And also, we've been talking about that talkback feature, and we got some uses of it, some of that are, let's just say, not useful on air, because that's kind of the point here, is that it's going to be, a message for us that we can play back on air and talk about. So, let me give you an example of a decent way to do it. We'd prefer it if you could say, who you are, where you're calling from, what side of town, that kind of thing we do with our regular callers. But, well, if you're going to leave at least a, repeatable message, that's the real important part here. So, again, we got the images up on our screen here right now of what it actually looks like to use the talkback feature. If you're over on the iHeartRadio app, you want to look for that red button next to the stop and play one. It's the one that looks like the little microphone, and you can leave us a message by holding on to that and speaking into your device that you're listening to us on. That's if you're just in the general browse window, but then if you're actually on the station and looking at us as we're playing back, it might be bound towards the bottom of the screen. Again, your operating system on your device may differ slightly, but that's what you got to look for, and that's how you can leave us those messages and leave your own message, well, much like this.
Do you like whiskey? Number 2. Do you like guns? Number 3. Do you like freedom?
Again, we'd ask if we'd prefer it if you could then say, who you are and what side of town you're calling from. But again, that's the idea. You can leave us a message anytime on the station by using that feature. And in short, yes, yes, and yes. And make mine a triple, please, is a simple way to put it. So if you're really wanting to leave your message that way, that's a good way to do it. We'll get to those pound 250 calls a little bit later here as well, because we got more on the phone line here. But again, the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app, give it a shot because we got some stuff coming up with it. Stay tuned, probably early next month for features. So get used to it now would be a smart thing to do. But let's get to those phone lines. We do have that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast with us on the line here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey, Andrew. Literally, the biggest thing in El Paso is obviously the Franklin Mountains. Las Sierras de los Mansos, as they were called by the Spaniards who first saw them. If it wasn't for the Franklins, El Paso would be greatly diminished. I am so glad we have them. I would encourage your listeners to get in touch with their representatives, since we have 2 Republican senators, for example, to encourage them to help those involved in the efforts to turning the Kasner Range into a national monument.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so that it won't be developed, because I tell you what, the developers would love to have it. It's a very primo piece of real estate, and it would fill in immediately with houses and businesses, But having that wide expanse open and free of all of that and just the beautiful view of the Franklins is so, so important to continuing to have El Paso have some character worth preserving.
I mean, yeah, that's been an effort going on for a while now, actually. I mean, there was a kind of last ditch, I want to say, coming up right after, well, right at the end of the second term of the Obama administration, I guess I should say. Their webpage now says, President Biden, please protect Kazner Range, because they're looking for a declaration like that. I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, yes, it's a beautiful area. The picture they got over at one of the efforts toward this, Kazner Range National Monument.org, shows the poppies in full bloom. It's a beautiful piece of area. And a lot of it is also very flat, which may raise the question of why hasn't it actually been developed before now if it isn't, well, that kind of federally protected? And, well, this is one of the reasons it hasn't been, and I think one of the reasons it hasn't been totally high priority is because of the amount of explosives that are actually out there. So, I mean, I fully support the idea of it. I would love to see that area fully protected and hopefully made more safe over the years, because it's called Kazner Range because it was, before El Paso grew up to it, a literal active artillery and small arms range. I think that part is less understood here because it was firing, the big boomers, but also the, rockets, hand grenades, all that kind of stuff here. And it'll live rent free in my head forever. Talking with someone who was at the Archaeology and Wilderness Park Museum that is right off of Trans Mountain if you're over on the east side of the mountains, and counting the number of explosions that person heard when there was one of the last range fires out there. So it's still a very thorny area, so that's why it hasn't been developed already, but I see no reason why not to essentially keep it that way, because vaguely flat land is very much in demand, even in the area, even in the situation we are. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
RJ saying, yeah, Junior lost his arm is not a great real estate ad. Absolutely. And I mean, it's a laughable thing to think about, but it has actually happened recently. I remember a news story from a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit longer, of someone finding something out there and I think losing some digits at the very least. So it does happen.
Yeah, you know what? Uncle Sam's really not all that concerned about it, obviously. They don't even have a chain link fence along the expanse there, There's unexploded ordnance in there. It's in the middle of a city of, 600,000 people. People do go out there, probably not a whole lot, but people do go out there. And if they were really serious, they certainly have the money to put up a chain link fence and some adequate signage. There's hardly any signage there. And a lot of signage is all worn out or, from the sun. And by the way, they don't transfer it over because they have to have it cleaned up before they could transfer title to another party, and it's Uncle Sam's responsibility to clean it up. And obviously, he has much bigger priorities than Kazner Range in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I expect that, well, as much as I love the declaration on it, it'll probably be backburnered for a while now. More specifically, my understanding is that the reason it didn't happen as kind of one of those 11th hour issues out of the Obama administration was because, well, among other things, a representative at that time was Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, and he was, let's just say, not in well with Democrat leadership, Nancy Pelosi at the time. The way I phrase it, and I stand by, that it is, well, you have the closest thing you can to a screaming middle finger to Nancy Pelosi upon her reelection as the Speaker of the House by saying that it was time for new leadership and he's disappointed, which I think could have ended up resulting in that not getting a priority at that point in time. So we'll see what happens under this current administration.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, I really never really paid attention to her until, she won the Speaker of the House the second time around and went on to impeach Trump 2 times. She's an incredible woman, super smart. And I heard that she said to manage the House, that she's supposedly a tactician and great at strategy to bring all these Democrats together, is that she raised 5 kids. It's unfortunate. I mean, Beto was all for the effort, of trying to turn it into a park. And that's one reason that I didn't vote for Obama the second time around. He did not deliver, and unfortunately, he was not in a position where he could deliver when he lost the House and then lost the Senate. So it was all over for his agenda. And that's unfortunately what's wrong with our government. It's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back and forth between the duopoly of the Republicans and Democrats, too many of which are bought out by corporate America, and which gets their way. Their interests are always served. But the average Joe Blow, I can understand why he's upset with government, because we don't seem to get a whole lot in return for it. If it wasn't for my use of the national parks, I wouldn't think I'd get all that much in return. I pay taxes, and I funded my own retirement, and I paid for my own insurance, being an entrepreneur. So, I didn't get any breaks from Uncle Sam like the big corporations do, because I can't afford to buy that kind of politicians and those kind of lobbyists. It's such a rigged thing. It's very sad. So it's no wonder people have such little faith in it. But nonetheless, Joe Biden's the right guy for the job at this time. Thank goodness he's a president handling this Ukrainian situation. Who knows what Trump would have done if he was in there? He'd probably let Putin get away with it and be pouting his line. That they're all Nazis and that he's denazifying, the Ukrainians. So that's what I have to say on all these things. Thank you for your time.
Sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call there. I think an interesting question to ask on your last point there is what would have actually happened if we had ended up in this situation with among other things, second term of the Trump administration. But, that'll have to remain a what-if question for now. But in terms of your first point about casting a range, I don't expect it to happen anytime soon, but fully support the effort as I hope it does continue to move forward here. I think we have time for one more quick call before we hit that next break. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Yeah, Harry here on the east side. I can't comment, Andrew, regarding the talkback you're getting on the buttons and the receipts and everything, because I don't do that.
Yeah, fair enough. No worries.
Pocket read. Raul, Andrew, and Barbara are all on to something. They really are. Let me explain my comments regarding I'm piggy-tailing, actually. The first thing I just have to say is that Biden, Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, and Feinstein are too old to be in government and to be effective. And of course, that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Biden, I'm not going to even get into that because I get emotional, about what he's doing to the country, and anybody that can't see that's just not paying attention. Raul was on to something the other day. He made a comment regarding the border and that the border would somehow or another eventually become a violent situation. And he couldn't be more right. That is the smartest thing he has ever said. If another person, no other person, a legal alien, crosses the border ever again, the damage to this country has been done. And the people are here, and it's going to start. And anybody that thinks they're safe or immune from what's going to happen is not paying attention, okay? And as far as Andrew's comment with regulations and titles, the government is a criminal organization, the current administration. They are proven criminals. They don't give a darn about regulations and things that are supposed to be complied with by the law. They do what they want to do, and they get away with it. Mayorkas, he should not be in position. I can name a half a dozen people. Granholm, she got kicked out of Michigan. Susan Wright was nothing but a stooge for Obama. All those folks that are in this country now, like Donald Trump said, we are being ruled by a criminal class of foolish people.
I mean, the inaction of this current administration on any of these border security issues are, again, I tend to go by the phrase, don't assume malfeasance when incompetence is as likely a one, but given just the willful ignorance on all of these issues, and again, we're seeing that 6-pillar plan just now being talked about by CBP and Department of Homeland Security in the impending wake of end of Title 42 is a little bit, okay, where was any of this since the start of this administration, shall we say, a nice actual plan? Like, that's the closest we've gotten to policy, but it's not actually policy. It's just initiatives within an agency that may or may not actually have. I mean, I'm sure there are going to be more lawsuits on this. There hasn't been anything involving border security, border funding, or the immigration issue since, again, practically this century, this millennium so far. Like, it has been just constantly piecemeal efforts that end up getting litigated to hell. So, yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but yeah, I think this is going to, at the very least, color a lot of votes happening in this area as we come up on, well, again, these midterm runoffs, so primary runoffs, and then the midterms themselves. And I think this will be very key in mind. So anyone not addressing that is not going to be doing themselves a service. And I think it's going to reach far beyond even this border region, because there's more people than just live right here in our broadcast area or even along the sector of the border in general that are concerned about this, and seeing the lack of inaction, seeing some of the reporting coming out of it, and just seeing that there's not much happening going on and dealing with it. Because, I mean, literally, this would be a simple thing to at least say you're doing something. Again, the whole criminal organizations, one of those pillars of the DHS plan, that would have been a great one to have put into place day one, and probably would have been rallied by both sides of the aisle. Who's going to say that, no, I want to support the criminal organization smuggling people? No, that wouldn't have been bought by anyone. So that would have been an easy one, but it's at the very least too little too late. And I think a lot more people are going to be, well, again, voting with their feet on this issue.
Exactly. And my last comment, a statement is Biden would have been a good shoe salesman in Delaware. That would have reached his capacity. And Bernie Sanders, he should be a salami salesman in New York. That would be the extent, the heights of his accomplishment. That's all I got to say until tomorrow.
Fair enough here. Well, actually, to tell you what, stay around for just a second and put you on a brief hold, but we got to take that next break right now, because coming out of this break, we're going to be talking more about the issues and more on the stuff, all these stuff going on here. So if you want to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
This is Erica Castillo with your KFOX 14 news update. The 15-year-old boy stabbed and killed along Alameda was ambushed in front of a food business, according to the arrest affidavit for one of the suspects. Kevin Gonzalez was stabbed multiple times with an unknown sharp weapon, allegedly by 16-year-old Jorge Juarez. Gonzalez was seen on surveillance footage heading home, then leaving it minutes later and heading to Doña Lupita Tamales 2 in El Paso's Lower Valley, according to the affidavit. Gonzalez was seen ambushed outside the business by two males. The two males are seen assaulting and stabbing him before getting away in a white four-door vehicle. Cameras captured Gonzalez running toward Alameda, looking for help from motorists at the intersection of Alameda and Midway near Riverside High School. Juarez allegedly confessed to the stabbing murder of Gonzalez to police. Juarez told detectives he, Christopher Carrillo, and a 15-year-old had planned to rob Gonzalez and split the money three ways. The two 17-year-olds are being held on $1.5 million bond. The minor is also in custody. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 news update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
The crash on I-10 eastbound at Piedras has cleared. All lanes are back open, but the backup seems to be getting bigger. I-10 eastbound between Cotton and Reynolds, now it's a 20-minute delay. There is another crash on I-10 eastbound at Reynolds at the Reynolds on-ramp. That on-ramp is blocked because of the accident I-10 eastbound. Expect delays and backup there. Police on the scene of an accident border highway westbound at Yarborough. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The patchy dust will settle and the winds will stay slightly breezy for the rest of the night. Expect a mostly clear sky overhead with temperatures dropping into the lower 50s in Las Cruces to the upper 50s in El Paso. Coming up tonight, I'm tracking above average temperatures and more wind as we wrap up the work week. Plus, a look at your weekend forecast. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Need to hire? Need Indeed. Their hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-616-1997. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-616-1997. That's 800-616-1997. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Staples Print and Marketing Services helps small businesses print big with wide format signs and banners. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 5/28. Visit staples.com/signage for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to get at the show. Honestly, there's a lot more ways that we usually keep track of here. We got that phone number on right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in over on the social media pages. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are where you can find us there under either Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of interesting ones there. Calvin Williams, Raul Francisco Amaya, RJ, James Ratcliffe, and Flaco Jimenez, and more. On again, it's easy to be flippant about some of these things involving cast and arranging. Flaco Jimenez saying, don't pull at JJ Arms. Actually, I think involving a train track specifically in that case here, but well, I don't go on to get sued, so we won't get too much into this here. So Calvin Williams with an interesting comment here that's saying at ranges near White Sands, people get hurt trying to collect brass, and they started putting up new signs here. I will say that's one thing I did want to bring up. I almost neglected to, is that they have put increasing fencing, particularly along the Trans Mountain around that curve there. It used to be a parking area as you're headed up the hill from the east side, and they put an increased fence there after, well, I believe it was that previous incident I mentioned of someone finding something out there, taking it to a scrapyard, and then, doing some damage. So it's not totally enclosed, but the easy access, most of it is gone there. But, well, a determined person could still get there. Let's say that. Lot of conversation going on about these issues and the ones we deal with in this area. So if you want to chime in over there, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, you're more than welcome to. But let's go back to those phone lines now, because again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Jerry on the northwest side of things here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Let me give you an update on how well Joe Biden's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
January 20th, 2021, gas was $2.50 a gallon nationally. January 20th, 2022, gas was $3.32 a gallon, basically almost a dollar raise. 30-year mortgage rate in January 20th, 2021 was 2.95%. In January 20th, 2022, the 30-year mortgage rate raised to 4.6%. Third quarter GDP growth, January 20th, 2021, 33.1%. In January 2022, third quarter GDP was 2.3%. Inflation, January 20th, 2021 was at 1.4%. Inflation, January 20th, 2022 was at 7%.
Mm-hmm.
And since Russia invaded Ukraine, inflation has went up to 8.5%. Gas has went up to 4.25. Eggs have gone up from $1.99 to $3.50, and so on and so forth. I have not looked up the GDP lately or the 30-year mortgage rate, but I know they both have raised, except for the GDP. The GDP has lowered. So Yeah, I think Joe Biden is handling it real good, but it's killing our nation. Handling it real good for Russia. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. And actually,
Listening.
I was looking at that GDP earlier. Yeah, contracted 1.4% in 2022's first quarter. Now, there has, of course, been a lot of spending, but inflation and those kind of things. But yeah, GDP literally down first quarter of this year. So, yeah, there are issues. And why, as much as let's look at gas prices and what's going on with them, because even as the price of oil has fluctuated quite a bit, actually, in these recent months, gas prices remain pretty high. So I'll support an investigation into that. But as was said in the top of the hour news break, calling this all blaming on Putin, that falls a little flat because there's been a march on this price going up before this point. So sure, this is a latest factor, but not even a real main one in my mind. But also, as part of what they're talking about with that specific effort is, well, essentially putting the kibosh on any idea of there being a federal tax gas hiatus for now. So I think anything happening soon or quickly or expediently is also out the window at this point.
Okay, one more thing. DHS creates a disinformation governance board that was by Mayorkas, our DHS secretary, and that was given when he was testifying to Congress either yesterday or today. So basically, we're going to have a bureau that monitors everything that people says against, and it's going to go against free speech, First Amendment Constitution rights, and it's going to be basically just like Soviet Union used to do when they had a bureau for propaganda. So anything that you say, or it has to clear through that bureau.
Yeah,
I know you're a big supporter of free speech there, Andrew. So am I.
Yeah.
I love the Constitution, and I would give my life for it. So this is all Joe Biden's doing.
Yeah, I was reading up a
That's
bit
how
on that. It's got some
current
concerns.
president is.
Yeah, of course. And I was reading up on that whole, I'm not surprised this came about, though, them putting it in exactly this way because of the whole talk about, the MDM, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation phenomena being talked about online. But yeah, making it a bureau, like that's just asking for the Ministry of Truth to be slapped on it. So I'm not, RJ saying the exact same thing over there. So I'm not sure how they think that this is going to work out for them in even trying to implement this.
Well, we no longer have a president. We now have a dictator. Well, thank you for taking my call, Andrew. Yeah, have a good day, America.
Oh, you too. Thank you for the point of the call. You have a good one as well. This is important to talk about these things. Again, good luck on actually trying to make that come in and be workable here. Eric, another comment coming in, Eric von Holstein saying you think the problems the government creates are bad, just wait till you see their solutions. Pretty sure we'll have a free speech czar. I'm reminded of, this was protests well before this recent decade. I want to say back in like 2008, 2009 housing crisis, financial collapse times, that I'm wanting to say it was the city of San Jose, California. It was definitely California. I might be blowing smoke at San Jose for no reason, but definitely in the same kind of vein that during these protests, there was, quote unquote, a free speech area in front of City Hall down there. And if that's not one of the more dystopian phrases, it's still unrivaled to this day in my mind, because to my understanding, the entire United States is supposed to be a free speech area. So the idea that there is, verification, which is why I know that there's a lot of opinions about fact checkers or some specific fact checking organizations out there. The idea in essence is a good one, even if some of the specific implementation, anything that has been joined on with a social media platform is just rife with problems. That's no secret. I've seen memes that have had these out off the wall disclaimers or markers on them, and it's just like, really, this is what we're wasting our time? Anyway, point is that the entire United States is supposed to be a free speech area. So this idea of limiting it, of changing it, and that's why, again, the whole Twitter thing, Elon Musk, we're up on that platform, so we're subject to it as well. I'm watching with very rapt intent on what exactly their intent is, because sure, the idea of actually promoting and keeping free speech, there's a lot of people who parrot it and say that we need it to be existing. We needed to have it in place, and we're totally going to defend it. But, well, the implementation is tricky. shall we say, unless you take a seriously hands-off approach and say, yeah, free market, have at it, and a marketplace of ideas, but there's not a whole lot of that actually being advocated for these days. So those conversations changing then on the Section 230 regulations when it comes to social media as well, all of this is swirling together, but yeah, everywhere is supposed to be a free speech area, and it's actually Calvin Williams putting it here, everywhere is in front of that courthouse. I mean, it's true, and that's what they were doing it specifically as then this is where reporters are allowed to be, which also just a complete lack of understanding on how that is supposed to work, coming from well, just plain and simple, an authoritarian point of view of, well, we have controls we need to put into place, and this is what we will allow you, which is totally counter to the entire American idea and experiment. And, well, one of the reasons we got to keep talking about this stuff here. So we're kind of doing the lead in here to Free for All Friday already, but why the hell not? We got enough to talk about here these days. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we got one of those pound 250 calls we'll get to here. So we'll talk more about how you can leave us messages. Just clear up any confusion on that. Tell you what we got coming up for you in future days on the show. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. And yes, I've seen all the Elon Musk buying this next post here. I'm going to buy one of my favorite ones. I'm going to buy Western Playland and move it back to Escalante. But a whole lot more we'll talk about that and all this stuff coming up after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
The crash on I-10 eastbound at Piedras has cleared. All lanes are back open, but the backup seems to be getting bigger. I-10 eastbound between Cotton and Reynolds now, it's a 20-minute delay. There is another crash on I-10 eastbound at Reynolds at the Reynolds on-ramp. That on-ramp is blocked because of the accident I-10 eastbound. Expect delays and backup there. Police on the scene of an accident border highway westbound at Yarborough. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Need to hire? Need Indeed. Their hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Hey Texas, this is Eric Burton. And I'm Adrian Casada, and we are Black Pumas. We've partnered with Don't Mess with Texas to turn up the message to keep Texas clean. So come on, join hands and let us be united. Let's all do our part in taking care of our beautiful state roads. It's time to step up. Together, we can keep Texas litter-free. Don't mess with Texas, y'all. Peace.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. You know, there's a lot of ways to protect your home. You could dig a moat. You could bubble wrap it. Or you could train a pack of wolves to protect it. But the best way is with the Flex Seal family of products. So when you need to patch, bond, seal, repair, and stop leaks fast, get the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street, reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss, are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute, are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. That's code DRAG.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend on the last part of our last segment of the show for today. But of course, we'll be back tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Because, just Friday is on deck, and it's a very important day for those of us involved with the show, particularly if you've experienced it in the past. That's Free for All Friday. I mean, we are taking on all the comments, calls throughout both hours of the show, open lines throughout the program. So we'll get into it, all this stuff here. And yes, I have seen all the hilarious Elon Musk, I'm going to buy this now. He actually did tweet. I looked for it myself because I could have sworn it was I'm going to buy Coca-Cola and put the cocaine back in. So he's definitely in on the joke. Otherwise, I guess he just declared his own war on U.S. drug policy. Doubt that'll be the case, but well, it's a hell of a show at the very least. So we'll talk more about these and more issues. And again, if you want to leave us a message in between now and then, so 2 great ways to do it while we're not on air, because you can call in, but we're not here. You can do that through the Talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. So if you got the app, you got it on your device, you're listening to us through that, you should be able to find a red button with a microphone on it that you can hold and leave us a message, and it'll pop up in our inbox here. We'll play it like we did. There was a question about what were those 3 things that were asked here. Do you like whiskey? Do you like guns? And do you like freedom? And yes, and make mine a double of all of them here. But a lot of comments coming in here as well. Erica von Holstein saying, does anyone remember when the Honorable Mayor Cook telling some concerned citizens in City Hall to get out and take their free speech with them? Yeah, and James Radcliffe actually saying that he was actually one of them that was kicked out by Cook at that point in time. I do recall that around the time of the suits and countersuits and back and forth with the Tom Brown ministries when it came to the expansion of city council benefits. So, yeah, that was a heck of a time to be involved in that here. Yeah, you can take your freedom of speech outside, I believe is the direct quote. Actually, man, I think I just found that actual comment on YouTube. Maybe we'll play that back tomorrow here. But again, if you're wanting to leave us a message, even while we're off air, you can do so by calling either, again, leaving the message on the Talkback feature, or if you just want to make a phone call on your smart device, you dial pound 250 on your phone. When prompted, say the keyword Talk El Paso and leave your own message, much like this.
This is Messiah Frankie. I just heard that Andrew guy, awful Andrew, going on saying, complaining something about Raul and saying that he didn't give credit to the Donnie Dotard doofus when he's right. I will tell you now, this to everybody out there, the Donnie Dotard doofus has never done anything right. He's a walking wrong. He should have a big flat W stamped on the front of his stupid-looking forehead of his. That's number 1. Number 2, the CDC is not political. Political stuff from the CDC does not go from the bear to up. It comes from the top down. CDC, NIH, and everybody else out there just got their noses to the grindstone in their test tubes. I don't want to say that, so I take umbrage to what you said on that, Andrew. Not awful, Andrew. You, Andrew.
Again, if you want to leave your own message that way, pound 250, keyword Talk El Paso. So, yeah, the idea of the CDC being political or not. Sure, I'm not going to say that any individual, actual, scientists in there has their own agenda. I mean, they might, but that the general people that I've known that in the fields of science have been interested in the pursuit of it, they want to see it move forward. But to say that it's not political just because the rank and file members of the agency don't have it is missing the implementation that we're seeing lately of there being very political blatantly political decisions being made about things like the quarantine levels or even the decisions, on Title 42. The Biden administration has tried to say, well, it's not really our fault. The CDC did it. What can we do here? But yeah, that just falls flat at best here. To say that, at the very least, it smacks of incompetence. So sure, I do not think that at its core, the CDC is a political animal, but it's hard to deny these days that leadership, top down, as you said, has become very politically involved here. So that'll kind of, I guess, kick us off for Free for All Friday here, because we'll be doing that ahead of that show. Again, want to leave us messages, those 2 ways to do it. The pound 250 feature, when you say Talk El Paso, leave a message like that, or the Talkback feature over on the iHeartRadio app. Either way, we'll be back with you again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Seriously, thank you to everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Y'all help make what it is. So in the meantime, stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a crash on the Reynolds on-ramp to the I-10 eastbound. It's backing up traffic. It's stop-and-go traffic on the I-10 eastbound between Cotton and Reynolds right now with 12-minute delays. Border Highway westbound at Yarborough. Police on the scene of a crash there. An accident reported Gateway Boulevard before the Trans Mountain at Cohen Avenue. And George Dieter northbound at Edgemere, an injury accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Help DEA keep our community safe and healthy by participating in National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, Saturday, April 30th. Take action right in your own home by cleaning out your family medicine cabinet of unneeded medications. Keep them safe, clean them out, take them back. To find a collection site near you, visit DEATakeback.com. Do your part to lower overdose deaths and prevent prescription drug misuse before it starts. Visit DEATakeback.com. That's DEATakeback.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
If you think making false threats is a joke, think again. Any communication threatening students, teachers, and staff at schools or public places is a federal crime that could lock people behind prison doors for up to 5 years.
I'm FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch, making you aware that hoax threats have real consequences. We don't want to see a young person begin their adult lives with a felony record.
Making false threats is not a joke. Think before you post. Visit FBI.gov.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. U.S. lawmakers are calling Russia's war against Ukraine unjustifiable. A Texas congressman said the brutality is shocking and President Putin must be held accountable for war crimes. A New York Democratic congressman labeled it a vicious war on democracy. The nation's economy unexpectedly shrunk during the first 3 months of this year. Former Congressional Budget Office Director Doug Holtz-Eakin said this may result in a recession.
So the inflation problem is clear and present. And underneath the bad top line is in an acceleration of domestic demand. That's the Fed's problem. So they need to lean not less hard, but more hard on the economy.
GDP growth declined 1.4% during the first quarter after surging 6.9% over the last 3 months of 2021. The decline is even worse than analysts had forecast. A suspected North Texas serial killer will be spending the rest of his life in prison. Billy Chimirmer was convicted of capital murder Thursday afternoon for the 2018 killing of an elderly woman. Dallas County prosecutors say Chimirmer killed at least 24 elderly women, stole their jewelry, then resold it. His initial trial last year ended in a hung jury. The state of Arkansas is filing a lawsuit against Family Dollar after more than 1,000 rodents were discovered at one of the company's warehouses. The Family Dollar distribution center in West Memphis experienced massive rodent infestation throughout its facility and had direct exposure and potentially contaminated commonly purchased products. State Attorney General Leslie Rutledge outlined investigations into the West Memphis Distribution Center. James Corden is leaving The Late Late Show. Corden told Deadline he will leave the CBS talk show next year. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A national organization wants New York